Welcome to Kumbasoft DPAA tutorials. This tutorial is about refactor replace feature of DPAA. So what I've done is I've started out by selecting a couple of appliances. I've selected a single domain, so to keep this example simple, because this can get pretty complicated. I've selected an object type of JSON settings because I've set up a particular example here, and then I've listed all the JSON setting objects across both appliances of this domain. So we have identical settings here just to show you that it can work against multiple appliances. Now, what's important to us to start out is I'm going to select one appliance here and one of each object from the appliance. So what we want to do is we have these old bad settings that we want to replace with these new better settings here for the JSON settings. But the important thing is, well, what are we changing? So when we want to do an impact analysis, we can select the menu here, or we can right mouse click and we can show referenced by. So I'm going to select the show referenced by, and what DPAA is going to do is show us what is referencing the two objects that we have here. So you can see nothing seems to be referencing new better settings. All we see is that object here. But when you see the old bad settings, what we're seeing is it's referenced by this XML manager called Check-in Service Manager, which is further referenced by this XML firewall service called the Hotel Service. So keep this in mind because we're going to invert this picture through this exercise. In other words, when we get done, we're going to see this opposite where this one's no longer referenced and this one has these same references here. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the old bad settings from both the appliances here. And then I'm going to right mouse click, or I can use the hamburger menu, and I'm going to select Refactor Replace. So what this is going to do is this is going to bring up a dialog that lets me select an existing object that's already on the boxes for this refactoring exercise. Now, when synchronized changes is on, as you see here, that's an ideal situation because generally, since we're working against two different appliances, we want the synchronization to work the same way without us having to do extra work. So again, this isn't a really great example of this, but imagine I have 10 appliances where I'm doing this. When I tab away or click away, notice it changed that object name down the list. So if I had 10 appliances, imagine that did it 10. With only 2, it's pretty trivial to go select one at a time. But when synchronized edit's on, it does that for you. Now I'm going to go and select finish, and it's going to go through the refactoring process. But while it's doing this, because it's got to do quite a bit of homework to do it, what it won't do reliably is if you have this object reference, say in code, or you have this object referenced dynamically in any way, style sheet parameters or variables in gateway script, or who knows where, there's no possible way that DPAA can go and resolve and reliably correct that. It's just not going to be possible. So you have to be very careful about, or you have to be very knowledgeable about what is actually ultimately referencing your object. Now, a JSON settings object is not a perfect example of that. I want you to imagine, say, a SSL client profile or a TLS client profile being referenced. That is easily referenced in code, like if you have DPURL open or some kind of URL open where you might dynamically reference an object like that in code. You have to be very careful and you have to be knowledgeable about where you might be referencing that. DPAA is not going to fix that kind of reference for you. But DPAA goes through, it does the refactoring, it updates the configuration of the XML managers that were referencing, or the objects that were referencing the object you are replacing, and then it saves the config. When you see the save config for every appliance and domain you've selected, okay, you know it's done. So now let's go back and see what it's done. So I'm going to select these objects again. I'm going to go and select reference by again. And then what we're going to see here is we're going to see that now the new better settings object is going to be referenced and the old bad setting object is no longer being referenced. So you can see new better settings is now referenced by this XML manager, which is referenced by the XML firewall service. So that is refactor replace. And again, it works with any kind of object in DataPower, with the exception of a few objects that cannot be refactored or renamed. You can't refactor, replace, say, an Ethernet interface. You're not going to be able to do that. So there are some things that are obviously not going to be able to target, and DPAA won't allow you to do it. So that's kind of the good news there. But that's refactor, replace in a nutshell, and that's how it works. So if you have any comments or questions or interests, go out to www.kumbasoft.com. You can go to the Contact Us page, fill out the information. If you want to request a license, you can get one there. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.